Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. The Know Your Gear podcast.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 362. And I hope everybody had a fantastic week. I had a really good week. We did a lot of things, accomplished a lot of things. We have a lot of things to talk about this episode. A lot of questions, a lot of subjects, a lot of everythings, a lot of stuff. But first, as always, we want to do the announcements real quick. What are the announcements? First of all, we have a winner for the Epiphone Firebird guitar. I want to thank you guys all who entered to win that guitar. And for those who didn't enter to win, I understand, but boy, are you going to be sorry you didn't enter to win, because it is an amazing guitar. I was really shocked by it. The winner is named Joshua Lovejoy, and Joshua, thank you so much for entering the contest and getting a beautiful guitar. He's going to get the guitar next week. The video will come out next week of that guitar, and I have to tell you, impressed is an understatement of the quality of that Epiphone. I am in shock. And there's two things I could tell you. For those that don't want to watch the review and just want to know my thoughts, it's better than my Gibson Firebird, absolutely. And I can't imagine these new Epiphones that are $1,600 are better than this. So my suggestion is, if you're looking for a good Firebird, $650 Epiphone, it's just amazing. And for those that maybe think, well, maybe Phil got a special one. This wasn't sponsored by anyone, any guitar company. What happened was CMA YouTube channel sponsored a video. In other words, they gave us money. They sponsored us with money, and we decided to take a portion of that money and buy a guitar and do a giveaway with it. We thought that'd be a good way to thank the audience for giving us the ability to get sponsored in the first place. So we bought the guitar. So we purchased the guitar from Sweetwater, and Shauna picked it out. So she picked out the lowest weight one, and they shipped it within an hour. So there was no weird cherry picking going on. It was just it just happens to be a very good guitar. So congratulations to Joshua. Thank you for everybody who entered, and there you go. I want to thank everybody who on the top tier Patreon for yesterday's Zoom marathon of 4.5 hours. That was really fun for those, especially those could hang for the time. It was pretty crazy. Next week, I'm excited about the Patreon clinic that we're doing. So I want to thank everybody who's going to come to that. All right. And then on that, is that the end of the announcements? I think that's the end of the announcements. Let me double check. That's it. So now we can talk about questions, comments, the world, whatever guitar things you want to talk about. I'm sure the overwhelming questions, comments are going to be about, as I'm scanning through, Sam Ash. We're talking about Sam Ash. So yes, this week I was running errands and doing stuff, and my phone started blowing up as it does. Hey, did you see Sam Ash might be closing? First it was hey, did you hear the rumor they might be closing all the stores? Then it was, I think the next day it was official. As you can imagine, I got a heads up that it was probably official a little before I heard the rumor that it was not official. That is worth discussing. So what is going on with that is pretty simple. Sam Ash is closing all 40 stores. Instead of a month ago, we were talking about the 18 they're closing. They're now closing all 40 stores. And so there'll be clearance and out inventory till about June. So if that helps, if anyone's curious about that. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, first, there is talk of maybe they can get a Hail Mary pass investor. Somebody will come in and buy it out and save it. I told you guys I'm a pessimist, so of course I'm the last person you should ask what I think of that. I'm going to say no, I don't think it's going to be very likely. Is it possible? Of course it's possible. I mean, there are a very talented group of individuals there, and they can probably, the store made it 100 years. I mean, I'm sure they can pull off anything, but I don't think it's very likely. And I don't even know if it's actually a very good decision, in my opinion. Again, we're just going to talk. This is, like I said, my show on Fridays is more of a water cooler talk show. I'm not a reporter. I constantly have been told by companies like, this is off the record, right? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, look, if you don't want me to tell anybody, it's fine, but I'm not like a reporter. This is more like I like to talk about the week's guitar subjects. So the interesting things to talk about. There are some interesting things that we don't know 100% that are probably important to think about when it comes to Sam Ash. First of all, they're closing all the stores. Somebody asked if they're going to be closing the website and shutting it down. My guess is yes, but who knows? Do they operate as a website-only entity? I don't think that's likely, but it is very possible. What I think's more possible to see the Sam Ash future is Sam Ash owns some other great brands. And although Sam Ash, the business, Sam Ash, the family, I believe, owns those brands, I don't think the store necessarily owns those brands. So I don't think they're attached to anything. And I haven't heard the word bankruptcy mentioned yet. I just hear closing. You know, as someone, I closed my store, but we didn't, obviously we're going out of business in that way. Same like Sam Ash. It was an end of an era for us. We're going to go ahead and close the store and move on to something else. So in that case, there's no like bankruptcy where things have to be liquidated. I'm assuming they're going to pay out their vendors or negotiate to pay out the vendors. I would imagine. I'm a guess. I'm going to imagine some vendors they'll negotiate to pay out and some they'll pay out. But here's what it is. They have some other great brands. They have Samson. If you don't know who Samson is Zoom. Samson is wireless units and it's PA systems. It's fantastic mixers, interfaces. They have that brand. They have Hardkey, to me, one of the 3 best bass amp brands on the market. You know, maybe I'm biased because I'm a huge Victor Wooten fan, but Victor Wooten uses it. So huge Hardkey fan, obviously. And then they own Michael Kelly guitars. So Michael Kelly guitars, as you know, I recently reviewed one of the guitars and it was a fantastic guitar for the price. So is it possible the Sam Ash fam moves into the future of just having those brands, maybe even starting other brands? I think that could be a new chapter. Maybe it's a better chapter for them. So that's an important thing. There are some things, though, that I know that probably the guitar players that watching this aren't going to think about, but that it's very, really important. What I really think is interesting is you're going to have Sam Ash closing at the summer. And what's interesting about that is Sam Ash is a huge rental force. They rent a lot of band orchestra equipment. And so what's going to happen is Sam Ash is people are going to return that stuff when school gets out. Okay, because Sam Ash will still be open, so people were returning that merchandise. What Sam Ash does with that, I have no idea. Okay, so they're not talking about that. So I mean, I imagine that's different. That rental inventory is probably different than what they're blowing out. Whether they sell it to an entity or they try to do an online band orchestra rental system, I don't know. But what's interesting is I would imagine right now the music and arts people, the Guitar Center guys are. You know, everybody's like, oh, is Guitar Center going to take up all their stores? I'm like, I would imagine Guitar Center's Music and Arts would be really interested to see what happens when those kids return from summer break and they need to re-rent their band orchestra stuff. Because I don't know if you guys know, a lot of you probably don't have kids, but if you have kids, they rent, you know, whether they're there in band orchestra, they rent instruments. And then for the summer, some parents will pay for them to have the instrument to practice it through the summer. Some parents are like, hey, look, you know, when you're renting a trombone or an instrument that's like $80 a month, they just go ahead and return it for the summer. And then when the kid goes back in school, they re-rent it. And what I would imagine is Guitar Center Music and Arts would definitely be looking at all of the Sam Ash locations that are closing and making sure that they can either contact those schools and get those band orchestra rentals, or as I've explained before, Music and Arts can get mom and pops to be a depot for them. So they'll contact mom and pop stores and say, hey, would you like to be a depot from us? You know, you're next to a Sam Ash. Music and Arts will send flyers to the schools. It's a really easy thing to advertise. You basically tell, you know, Mrs. Smith, the teacher, Mrs. Smith, you tell her, hey, Mrs. Smith, we're renting band orchestra, send your kids here. And she hands out flyers and says, hey, this is where to rent your instruments for school. And they can go to their local mom and pop store that's a depot for Music and Arts, which is Guitar Center. And the depots give them 20%. And so, you know, it's very common. A depot can do 20 grand a month in rentals. And I mean, if you're doing that math, that's $4,000 a month. And I know what you're thinking, like, that's a lot of money. That's not a lot of money. Everyone's gonna have different opinions, but you understand the rental process is like a week long. So like you're all hands on deck. You rent out all these instruments for about the first week of school, and then a little bit of stragglers the second week of school, and then you're pretty much not dealing with any instrument rentals. You're not collecting payments. You're not doing anything. Just a little bit hit here and there, but you still get that $4,000 every month for months. So you're talking about a $50,000 a year income stream for a mom and pop music store. That's a pretty powerful thing. So anyways, that's one thing that it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. I'm actually interested on the business side of that. I'm more interested about that than I am on the guitar stuff. The guitar stuff, look, it's not a shock if you've been here hanging out with me for the last couple of years. What I've been saying and what we've been talking about is guitar freaks about the industry and the market since COVID. Think about it this way with Sam Ash. Think about this. If you were to Google right now Fender Stratocaster, go to Google, type in Fender Stratocaster, I can tell you exactly what you're going to see. First, most of you are going to see a sponsored post by Sweetwater. So the first thing you're going to see is Sweetwater. The second thing you see is Fender Guitars, the actual Fender guitar company. That is the second thing you see. Then after that, you're probably going to see Guitar Center, then Musician's Friend. Those are the most heavily searched when you type in the word Stratocaster. Now, what's a problem is this is the new world, what we're talking about. A couple years ago a few years ago, I could say, they got to compete online with Sweetwater and Guitar Center and Musician's Friend. But think of this, now they got to compete with Fender. I mean, so when somebody goes to Fender Guitar's website to look at a guitar, most likely they're not going to buy from Fender. But you can understand most of the time back in the day, if you were going to the website, Fender, you were like, look up some information about the guitar, find your local dealer, go check it out. Now, Fender's or have it shipped straight to you from here. And so if that scoops a little bit of sales, so basically what I'm talking about is the dealers now they have to compete with the vendors. So the people who are selling them the product is now selling the product direct. Like we mentioned, there's very few companies left not selling direct. Paul Reed Smith Guitars is one of them. But everybody else pretty much is selling direct in some way or planning to sell direct more in the future. And Dave Davlis, I'm saying your name wrong. Sorry. Says I typed in Sam Ash and the first thing comes up Sweetwater. Sweetwater pays an insane amount of money for those Google searches. When I spent 9 days or 9 days at Sweetwater, they showed me there's a full-time Google employee at Sweetwater's campus. So in other words, they do enough business with Google. They have a full-time Google employee that is there to help them on premises. So yeah, it's a tough thing. Now, the next part of the question, I've been getting all these questions, so I hope you guys don't mind. I put a lot of these questions. I'm sure a lot of you guys are posting the same questions right now, but trust me, I got them all through the week. I got them earlier on the show, so I have them in order. This next one came from Brent, who says, hey, Phil, can you comment on Sam Ash's store closings? Which I am. He says, but there's another question that was from Spondit72, who says, how big of an effect will Sam Ash closing have on already depressed guitar market? Well, here's the thing. Again, we're just having this discussion, okay? So here's what I think will happen. The Sam Ashes where Guitar Centers are the closest, the Guitar Center, like if it was a Guitar Center is nestled up across the street right next to it, I think the customers that were conditioned to go to that Sam Ash, I think a big percentage of them, I don't know, I'm throwing anything I say percentage-wise would be a guess, but say 60% so I can feel like I'm pretty confident about what I'm saying. 60% will now walk across the street or down the street to that Guitar Center. So if you're a Guitar Center right next to a Sam Ash that closed, maybe you'll see a small bump in sales, going forward. Every Sam Ash that's not directly next to, and so, not just Guitar Center, if there's a big enough mom and pop next to a Sam Ash, same thing. Right? In other words, a competitor. If there's a competitor right next to Sam Ash, the people that would walk to that Sam Ash door, they may go now out of habit to the store right next to it. Every Sam Ash that was more isolated, in other words, anything that had a 1 mile, and I'm not exaggerating, any Sam Ash that has at least, it's 1 mile to drive to the next music store, those customers are probably all going online now. That's just how that works. We know that because we don't have to guess in the guitar industry. We've seen what happens with other retailers and how the effect goes. We've seen it with Petco when they closed stores. We saw it with Toys R Us when they closed Toys R Us's. What would happen is some customers would go to the nearest Target, but most just started going online. So we kind of know that's what's going to happen. So obviously online will gobble that up. That will mostly be Sweetwater and then Guitar Center and Musician's Friend and then maybe Reverb. And I could be wrong about that order of those things, but those are my guesses. And that's what I think is going to happen. Now, I'd like to tell you, since we're talking about theories, these are all just my theories of what might happen, and this is what we're talking about. I don't think we'll make it to the end of the year without Guitar Center announcing some closings. So, and there's a bunch of reasons why I believe that. And I'd like to point out, so in case anybody at Guitar Center gets mad because I said that, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not saying that because I wish it upon anybody. I'm saying it because we're talking and we're giving theories, half-cocked theories on things that you see, and that's from what I see some of this hardship actually going to Guitar Center as a problem. When I mean hardship, not Sam Ash closing, just what's been going on in the market that's causing this. So, sorry, I'm reading a couple of comments. I told you sometimes I get sidetracked really easy by you guys. But for the viewers that are watching this that are interested about Sam Ash and the closing and the deals, they are going to, like I said, they're going to be liquidating for the next few months, and they're going to liquidate the same way you would as a bankruptcy. What I mean by that is the first week, it'll probably be like a 5% discount. The second week, and again, these are just guesstimates. I'm just guesstimating. Second week, a 10% discount. Third week, 15%. It was so on and so on. And it won't go gradually. It'll probably go slow moving, 20%, and then jump right to 50, and then jump right to 70, and then jump right to 90. And those last three, the ones that you want, they're salivating for, those will happen right at the end, and there won't be as much inventory. It'll kind of be like, oh, wow, I never really thought about getting a, a fluorescent pink Epiphone SG, but there's one here for 70% off or whatever is not selling. Because again, there's, it's not like they're liquidating out they're in a hurry. They are spacing this out over a good amount of time. There's some time to do this. So I'm just telling you guys. So if you want to go and check out some deals, but don't go there. Well, you should go anyways. Why not? It's a guitar store. You should go have some fun. But don't go to Sam Ash this weekend thinking that you're going to see 70% off. It's just not going to happen. And if it is 70% off or above, it's on something that's, again, something that's probably damaged or if they really need to get rid of and they know it's not going to sell, stuff like that. But it will be a gradual discount out instead of just a massive slash and go kind of thing. So I think that's the main subjects for the Sam Ash thing. I want to just say the Sam Ash family has always been amazing to me and this channel, and I mean that not even lightly, heavily. Sammy Ash himself has been, before his passing, was an amazing person that I could call a friend. And Richard Ash and Ben Ash have been very polite. As I told you, Ben Ash reached out to me to do some clinics at the stores, and Richard Ash even has reached out in the past if I needed some information to clarify things on the podcast. So again, these people are very, I believe in them, very talented people. And I'm sure I've heard it already said, like Sammy passed away. And then look, as a person who closed this retail store in 2017, I've told you before, I'm not saying there's no place for retail anymore. I'm not saying retail's doom and gloom. I'm just saying retail is not growing. It's not going to grow in the brick and mortar environment. Is it dead? Is it over? I don't believe so. I think it's going to shrink. It'll continue to shrink for the next 50 years maybe, or let's just be safe, 20 years. The next 20 years. To absolute zero, I don't believe that. I don't believe that it will go absolute zero. I don't think it's going to go totally the way of like the DVD rental market that's almost non-existent. I think it's going to have a place. I think it's going to have purpose because of band orchestra rentals, because of lessons, because of first-time buyers, because people just need a community of music instruments. There's people who just love owning stores and being in the community. All that stuff will continue to go on for a long time. But when you're talking about who's going to be growing 30, 40, 50% in the next 10 years, it's going to be on the online environment. Brian says Sweetwater isn't overly upset. You know, what's funny about that is, somebody asked me that. And I thank you, Brian, for saying that, because somebody sent me a thing saying, do you think Sweetwater is excited that, they're excited they're going to get all this business? I believe Sweetwater, as a culture of people, because remember, Sweetwater is a business, but it's a group of people, and I happen to know a lot of them. As a culture of people, I think they're probably disheartened by this because they don't need the business. Like, I believe that if you were to go to Sweetwater, the company as a whole, as a group of people who work at that business, and tell them, hey, you have a choice. You can put, Sam Ash out of business, or they can stay around. I would believe, and I really believe this, that they'd have no reason to want Sam Ash to close. The benefits to them are minor. They were already taking market share. They're playing a totally different game, as I've said many times. In fact, yesterday on the Zoom call with my patrons, I was talking about this exact thing. I said, people think I'm a Sweetwater fanboy. They think I love, the Sweetwater guys. It's not that. I really respect the game they're playing. It is some next level stuff that the rest of the industry is not playing. And I have had so many meetings with so many friends in this industry years ago, mostly. Now it's almost all pre-COVID stuff and during COVID, where I would talk about Sweetwater, and then now later they go, man, I didn't see it at first, but yeah, you're right. This is crazy. Sweetwater everything is strategized. It's really smart. And they're looking at how do they grow constantly. And it's that doesn't sound that great, maybe to some of you, maybe not impressed, but I can tell you that most of the music guitar retail world right now is calculating how to survive. They're like, how do we, like you heard me talk about last week with the new CEO of Guitar Center, is like, here's what I think we can do to improve. Sweetwater's not trying to go like, how do we keep business coming? They're like, here's how we're going to kill and be better. And, like they're just playing a new next level game. There's actually a teaser for you guys. There's actually something Sweetwater did recently that was really interesting, like game changing, and I can't wait to share with you. So I actually reached out to Sweetwater to not to ask permission to talk about it, but to confirm it and to see what the temperature is on this and what the discussion is, because I have a theory of what I think this means for them going forward. It's again another strategy move where I think it's going to result with them making a lot more money, doing a lot less work, and again, strategizing a future. So we'll hopefully talk about that next week. I was planning to talk about it today, but I would rather, if I can, and please understand what I'm going to tell you, instead of talking about a rumor that I think is true, because it's been, I've heard it from 3 really good sources, I'd really like to come at it next week with a confirmation discussion of it, and we'll we'll talk about how cool it could be going forward. So that's my insights and thoughts on the Sam Ash stores closing. And like I said, we'll see what happens. But my guess is, this is my guess. My guess is the Ash family will focus on, either one of 2 things. They'll focus on the brands they have that I think are very, very successful and very good, or maybe they'll liquidate those out and go to Aruba and sit on an island somewhere. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So, let's see. Okay, let's go. Are we done? Does anyone have any more questions? Did I miss anything? Let me see if there was any more Sam Ash discussion, so I don't have to timestamp it again later. I don't see any straight out questions. Let me double check this. Usually super chats are to the end, but I just want to make sure if there's a super chat about Sam Ash that can be connected to this. We'll keep the discussion going. Ray, thank you. He did a super chat. He says, hey, Phil, do you think Sammy expected no one to take over and close up the shop when he retired, passed away? And will somebody buy them out because that was the alternative? there was somebody to take over. So Sammy, so the last conversation I had with Sammy was, I forgot exactly what it was about, okay? But I know the subject matter. Does it make sense? You'll know why I'm saying this, what I'm saying in a second. Sammy was a person that I could call for advice. He was very helpful to me. And I wouldn't call him, very much. I wouldn't want to burden him. But every once in a while, an industry topic, I'd go, I know this is coming up on the show Friday. This is going to be hell. And I would reach out to Sammy and I'd say, hey, man, I think it was something with Gibson. That's why I'm saying I can't remember what controversial Gibson thing happened, but it was a controversial Gibson thing. And I thought, why not talk to one of the biggest Gibson dealers in the country and find out what's going on? And Sammy was so kind. What he did was he's like, I'm gonna tell you, Phil, what's going on, and you're not gonna tell anybody that I'm the source. And I'm like, okay, I'm good with that, right? Like, he's like, here's what's going on. And then we talked because, I care to him. At that time, we were talking about COVID. I told him I was gaining weight. He said he'd been walking more and doing stuff. He was a very fit individual. So, he was just getting out and stuff. And at that time, he was running, what he told me was he was running the used guitar part of Sam Ash across the country. He was handling used stuff. So I want to be clear that to some degree, my understanding was Richard and Ben were already kind of running things before Sammy retired or / passed away, whichever came first in that situation. So I don't want you to think, I was not under the impression from Sammy himself that it was like a, he's gone, and then all of a sudden this was thrusted upon somebody. I don't know, because again, we didn't know each other that well to talk about our personal health issues. So I was as shocked as everybody else that he passed away. Because like I said, he was a very healthy, fit person. Kind of guy where you think he's 10 years younger than he is when you see him. And, but at that time, he was, because he told me over and over again, he's like, hey, Phil, if you need anything used, you make sure you call me, and you let me know, I'll get it to you for cost. And he did. I actually got an Access from him, a purple one, and he gave it to me for cost. And so he was doing just that's what he told me. He was doing that stuff. So to answer your question, do I believe he would be shot? No, I don't think this is all bad doom and gloom. Look, no one wants to see a music store close. No one wanted to see it when I closed my store either. I still have customers to this day. I'll be at the Home Depot and they walk up and if I'm lucky, they go, hey man, I love your show. And then they go, but I'm really sad you closed your store. If I'm lucky, otherwise they just go, I'm really sad you closed your store. Or some people, I get I get it a lot too. Not often, but every once in a while, they don't know I even do YouTube and they go, oh man, I saw you close your store. What are you doing now? And I'm like, I work at this Home Depot. And anyways, the point is like I said before, when they announced the first 18 stores closing, and why they were doing that, this could be, again, we don't know. We don't know the whole story yet. They've been very upfront. They have been telling us what's going on as it happened. I know you're like that's not a big deal, but it is a big deal. Some companies don't make any announcements. So, they don't put out any official thing. They just close and go away. So I don't know. All right. And on that, I think we've covered everything that was Sam Ash that I see that you guys wanted to talk about. And we'll see what happens. I'm really interested to see what happens with their other brands. I really am optimistic for those things. And I know I said I was optimistic before Sam Ash. I still am. I think these people, look, you're going to see it, read it, for all the people that are going to say, like, I went in a store and it wasn't great, or whatever you're going to say, because there's people always going to have an experience, good and bad. You're going to see an outcry of people. This is a business that's been in our industry for 100 years. Literally, without Sam Ash, there would be no Paul Reed Smith Guitars. Paul Reed Smith has been saying that for a decade. He said it on this podcast, much less he said it 500 times everyone else. The very first purchase order was given to him by Sammy Ash, and with that purchase order, he literally got the loan to build his new factory. That's a fact. And I have talked to, as you guys know, I've interviewed half this industry, and in those interviews, Sam Ash comes up a lot as a huge part of that. So it's a massive loss to us as a community. But, I think, like I said, This makes me want to buy a Harkey amp. That's what it makes. I go, I want to buy a Harkey amp. I'm like, I've been thinking about getting a Harkey 210 combo, and maybe I'll do it now. So, all right, let's go on to a new subject. Let's talk about some guitar stuff. I have some other stuff that was pinned that is interesting. Okay, so this one came from 251, who says, Phil, I'm very excited to see the custom G&L. He's talking about my custom G&L that they're making. Since I am a lefty, I'm curious about their customs, but their website is 20 years old, LOL. This is very outdated website. This is true. Yep. Kiesel has a better experience. Yeah, well, Kiesel, to give you a reference, Kiesel spends $1 million a year on their website. So, if that doesn't impress anyone, then you just don't know what this industry spends for things. $1 million for the website is an insane amount of money to spend for a company that is, well, think about this. I don't know how big Kiesel Guitars is, but I'm going to throw my guess. My guess is they're a $10 million a year company. That's my guess. And if you want to know how I guessed it, it's because Jeff says he sells about 4,000 guitars a year. And then in somewhere else in the interview, he said their average price is about $2,000 something. And then I was like, okay, and accessories. And of course, he does a higher end market. So I just came up with his numbers and I go, okay, here's the numbers. And they're probably right. But my point is, yeah, their website is far superior to G&L's. Me personally, although I love the idea of the G&L custom shop, I want to point out over and over again that just what G&L calls a production guitar is more than what Fender Custom Shop calls a custom shop guitar. So if any of you are interested in buying a G&L custom shop guitar, although the policy on this podcast is if you ask if you should buy a guitar, the answer is yes. I would really take notice to the fact that this is how I guess powerful a statement is. I always tell people, everyone's biased. What is the bias? Here's my bias. My bias is G&L built me a guitar. They didn't charge me for the guitar. I was allowed to pick whatever I want at that factory, and I did not pick a custom guitar. I just picked a production guitar, spec'd out the way I want. They're building me this current guitar. Like I said, this is a indefinite loaner. In other words, if I love it, I'll keep it. If not, I'll send it back and we'll probably do something else. Either way, same thing. Every time G&L's come and talk to me that I've been presented with, they will make me whatever I dream up in the custom shop. And I just don't, I'm not a type of person who's like, well, since I'm not paying for it, it's kind of like your friends, like, I'm paying tonight. And he's like, well, then I'm getting lobster and steak dinner. I'm going to get what I normally get. So, I might get a second beer, but same thing with this guitars. So with G&L, I really think that the production guitars, being that there's 4 or 5, I can't even remember. It's how crazy it is. There's like 4 or 5 different neck profiles, 4 different fretboard materials, 3 or 4 different fretboard radiuses, 4 different types of wood you can choose for the body. An insane amount of colors. I can't even count them on fingers and toes. That's all production. Variances in, do you want a hardtail? Do you want a tremolo? Do you want these pickups? That's all plug and play production guitars for them. So I think unless you really can't find something in their production lineup, maybe go custom. But the reason I tell you that is 251 says it's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. And think about this. And all of that in the production cost is priced at or about a production Fender guitar. G&L, what people have been missing for G&L for forever, and I said this when I did their factory tour, and this is came up, and I'll just tell you because it came up during the Patreon discussion. G&L, to understand G&L the way I understand G&L guitars, is their entire facility is 9,000 square feet. I know because you guys can see Jeff Kiesel and he talks, and I know you see Paul Reed Smith all the time and he talks. I want to give you a reference. Kiesel Guitars factory is 20,000 square feet. Kiesel has about 60 employees. I think Paul Reed Smith has 400 employees. I can't remember now. Okay. And I don't know how big the building is, but let's just say it's 4 times bigger than Kiesel minimum. Okay. So just put that in concept. Now keep in mind, PRS as a company is 7 to 8 times bigger than Kiesel. Okay. So I want you just for reference. So PRS is like an $80 million, $90 million a year company. Kiesel, in my approximation, is about a $10 million company. More importantly, you have 60 employees at Kiesel in a 20,000 foot factory. G&L is about a 9,000 square foot factory, and I would bet you, I'm just to be safe, half the employees of Kiesel, so 30 people. So the reference of size and how many guitars are coming out of there, that is why they're able to do that. And I've been saying this for years. If Kiesel doubled its size, whoops, I dropped my headphones. If Kiesel doubled its size, all this plug and play and make every guitar you dream of will go right away. It'll have to be more processed and has to move. Same thing with G&L. The reason you get G&L the way you get G&L is because of the small volume. It's why you can get a Masterbuilt Fender, anything you want from Fender, as long as you pay $7,000 to $10,000, because the production goes so small, right? And it slows down. So that is why I think you look at G&L. That being said, I'm always upfront about everything. G&L is, when I say companies are small, please understand, don't expect Amazon, don't expect the Costco treatment, don't expect, Fender's call center, which is in Scottsdale. Well, I think they're further north now in Glendale. But anyways, Fender, I don't know how many employees. Think of this. Fender has more employees in their customer service call center here in Arizona than G&L has. Okay, period. So I think G&L customer service is like one person. Okay. And Kiesel, I think it's Cal. I think Cal's the guy who, by the way, is amazing. If you ever have to call Kiesel for anything, just talk to Cal. Anyone who says they have a bad customer service experience with Kiesel, talk to Cal. Cal was a nuclear fusion reactor technician on an aircraft carrier in the Navy. And I think he can bench press 5 of me. I'm not exaggerating. He's the nicest guy you've ever met. And he literally got out of the Navy and said, I want to work at Kiesel Guitars. And he just went down there and got a job. And I've never seen him not smile. So if you call and you talk to Cal, I just want you to know 2 things. 1, he's super awesome. And 2, he used to work on nuclear reactors in the Navy. And he can bench press an insane amount of, insane. Okay. So that's who you talk to. You talk to Cal. But my point is, if Cal's on a call, you're going to wait. And if that bothers you, don't do it. So I get it all the time from customers like, oh, G&L, they're slow. Yeah, because there's like 4 people doing what 20 people need to do because they're a small company. So it's not excusing that. I'm explaining it. So you can get more for less. It's that, what's that stupid, I forget what it's called. Somebody will know. It's that chart. It's like you can have good and fast, but you can't have, right? Cheap. You can have cheap and good, but you can't have fast. Think of it that way. If you want a G&L, you can get a G&L that's as good, if not, in my opinion, maybe better than Fender Custom Shop for the price of Fender production, made on pretty much the same machines that made the original Fenders. But it's going to be slower. There's going to be hiccups. There's going to be miscommunications. It's just going to it's going to happen. So, and same thing with Kiesel. And you just be aware of that stuff. Yes, thank you, Lord GP. The Venn diagram. Thank you so much. I used to always love the Venn diagram. I never had the cojones to put it up in my shop. I always felt like, oh, it's so good, but I always feel like you should never, I'm more customer service oriented, but I loved it so much. Okay, so okay. Any comments or questions on that? What are we talking about? So that's a good subject. Thank you for bringing that up. And I'm very excited. And that's the reason why I asked them to film the entire process of building the guitar that they're sending to me, because I'm going to take clips of that, highlight it, and let you see it. You're going to see the entire process of how this guitar was built. And the only thing that won't be accurate is the timeline, because I can already tell you right now, I bet you it's going to get built in a quarter of the time. That's just how marketing goes. I'm sorry. They really want to get a video in front of you guys so you can start buying and ordering guitars just like everybody else. I've been very upfront about that too. Kiesel does the same thing for me as a courtesy. They do that for artists and for influencers. They'll fast track guitars for us a little bit. Although don't get if that gets you all tied up in a wad, just understand fast track doesn't mean like a week. It means like I can undercut you guys by a week. And they do the same thing to me they do to you. Whatever they tell you, it's always a little longer. Whatever they tell me, it's a little longer. But again, I know because it's a smaller company. Okay, let's go to another subject. Amanda's been loading me up. Let's see what Amanda's sending me. Thank you, Amanda. Brian says, "Hey Phil, I hope that you have everything is going well for you and your family. I love the channel. Do you have any suggestions on how to clean a Fender Tweed case? I tried warm soap and water. I don't know. I can tell you what I mean, it's too late if you got stains on it. I did a video where I shellacked a Fender Tweed amp. I also shellacked my Fender Tweed cases. That's what I do. So if I was going to if I got another Tweed case for any reason, I would shellac it or seal it. That's just what I expect to do. Some people will tell you can spray with polyurethane paint and stuff. I don't do that. Like I said, a shellac is, watch that video. It's super easy. It's like, and it's not very expensive. You just do it and it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun experience. Other than that, somebody might have some good, sadly enough, this is more of a house clean. You could find a house cleaning channel on YouTube and I bet you somebody's going to be like the Queen of Clean is going to be like, here's how you get the stain out. But once you get the stain out, I'm telling you, shellac your Tweed case. I think it looks cooler and ages really cool. And you can mix it and thin it down however you want to be as thick as you want, thin as you want, dark as you want. It looks really cool. Okay, I'll just say Nikki. Nikki says, "Hey Phil, what is the best way to tighten the input jack nut? I tried buying a special tool for it, but it don't fit most of my guitars." Well, I have the same tool. I have two of them. First of all, yes, because they make a one size fits all for that tool. And if you have the smaller metric one versus the larger standard nut, it doesn't fit. So here's what I did. Here's what I still have laying around. I have a lot of tools that are like, the StewMac tools. And then I have a lot of tools that, you just make because I was in a shop one day and I saw somebody else make it, or I'd like to tell you I have all these great ideas, but I just travel and I pay attention. A philosophy I've always had is when I'm around anyone who does what I do, I just assume I don't know anything and I just pay attention to everything they're doing because I'm always going to pick up something. And so what I use on an output jack is I'll use needle nose pliers. And I had for a long time a set of needle nose pliers that you get at the dollar store, and I put shrink tubing on each side, but you really don't need that. What I do is I just stick them in the output jack of your guitar, input jack of your amp, whichever one you're using. I open them a little bit, I hold it, and then I use a wrench to tighten it on the outside. And I use a spanner wrench. If you guys know, most of the videos you'll see, I use a spanner wrench. You can get, the ESP one is my favorite one. It's quality. Everyone else's, I think, is not great. Music Nomad makes a spanner wrench that's a little thinner, that gets under things, but I bent it and I didn't like the quality. And I understand they put a rubber felt, not felt, but a rubberized thing on the bottom. It's okay, but the ESP spanner wrench, I will put a link to it, but I'm going to show it to you. This thing is one of those things, like if I could suggest one thing in everybody's toolbox, this is it. It's at StewMac. It's $12.99 for those that signed up for the StewMac free freight deal. Check it out. For everybody else that wants to save some money, you could check it, 10% off. This is it. It's the ESP multi-spanner. Fantastic tool. Look at that. Look at that. And then what I do is, if you see here how they have the amp, I'm just going to show the amp. I stick the needle nose pliers in there, and I just open them up a little bit to hold it steady, and I tighten it. For those that don't understand, you don't have to crank everything down, okay? I've told you guys before, if it keeps coming loose, if you have an output jack on a guitar that keeps coming loose, what you want to do is get some Loctite, and then what I showed this to you guys before, Loctite. I think it's the pink Loctite. The problem for me over the years is that I teach more than I repair now. And because of that, I buy stuff and I don't go through it as fast as I used to, so I'm not always rebuying it. So Loctite makes why can't I find it? There it is. Hold on a second. This would be a lot easier if I just go to Amazon. Okay, Loctite. Maybe not. Okay. Loctite. Okay. Give me a second. I appreciate it. I should have saved it from the last time we did the show. You don't want any of the heavy duty thread. Here's why. You don't need, because you want to be able to break it free if you ever need to replace it because it's bad. There's Thread Locker Blue. That's not what I use. Probably somebody's putting the answer in the comment section. I'll probably be faster if you do that. Medium strength is blue. You want the lightest strength. Let me just type this. And again, I apologize. Yeah, this is it. Thread Locker Automotive, high temperature, low strength. That's what so it's purple. It's the purple stuff. Here you go. There it is. Loctite, Thread Locker, Automotive, high temperature. You don't need the high temperature, but it's purple. So I thought it was pink. I'm sorry. And why you want low strength is this, you just put a little bit of this on the threads, and when you tighten it down lightly with your spanner wrench, again, you don't have to crank the stuff down. In fact, most of the stuff that's made in the Chinesium metal, it just strips out and you just crush it. It's just all junk. But this stuff will fix all that because, like I said, it'll hold it together. And then if your output jack's going bad or you need to replace one day, you just hardly any pressure breaks it free, and it's good. So I use that for three-way switches. I use it constantly for all kinds of things. Bridges on guitars. It's just awesome. And so, I've used all the Loctites because the first time I ever did it was probably 20 years ago. Some old guy came in and said, "Get yourself some Loctite," and I went down to the Ace Hardware and I bought some Loctite, and then I did it and it worked, but I couldn't break the damn thing free when I needed to next. So I learned. Steven says blue works fine. Blue works fine, but I'm going to tell you, so you know, Steve, if you have tons of reasons for Loctite, sure, find a compromise in blue. I think it's fine. But what I'm telling you is if you're using guitar stuff all day and you're going to be using guitars, everything guitar, purple is more than enough strength. Okay. All you're trying to do, okay, it's not like a car where it's, where the engine's vibrating like this. I mean, guitar vibrates, but it's very minimal. It's just, you're just trying to stop it from coming loose easily. So purple works, but like I said, whatever advice you want, whatever advice works for you is fine, but I'm just telling you what I use. Again, it's not what I think you should use. It's what I use. So that's why I've been using it for ever. So there you go. All right. Voodoo Guitar. Thank you for this one, Amanda. Says, I have an import Jackson soloist. One of the frets was filed too short, okay, from the factory when it was rounded off. If I replace that fret, how will I know what size fret wire to order? You're going to need calipers. I highly recommend the StewMac ones because it'll be easiest to do because it has a little groove cut in them. You can pull the fret and check it. That's what I use. You don't have to use those, but it's one of those expenses where I think a good set of calipers is worth its weight in gold. And the StewMac ones are my absolute favorite. I have two sets of them because I bought a set and then they gave me a set because my set, I told you guys, every once in a while StewMac would send me new tools because my tools are so old, they don't look like the version now that they make. Their concern was I'd be showing you guys and then you'd go on their website and be like, this isn't what he had. So I highly recommend the StewMac calipers, and that's what you'd use for that. And it's, you know what it is? StewMac, there's a lot of reasons why I like StewMac. The best reason to like StewMac, because obviously the prices are crazy, but you gotta understand, for the hobbyist, it's like, I would say them and Music Nomad are really, really focused on making stuff to where if it's your first time project, this is great stuff. It's going to last a long time. And, you're going to take out a lot of the guesswork out and it'll help you a lot. So that's what I would recommend, if that helps. Okay, let me jump over. How are we doing on time? Well, we're doing good. Let me jump over and hit some super chats, if you don't mind. Lets me take a sip of H2O. We have Sphase. Phase? I'm going to say phase. Sphase says, looking for a Floyd Rose guitar with stainless steel frets. It seems there's little stainless steel fret guitars from the big boys. Jackson's new lineup looks really cool. I really like Jackson's new lineup. The new affordable USA line with the stainless steel frets. That'd be a way to go. I'm biased if you want stainless steel and like a modern Floyd Rose style guitar. I mean, I like Kiesel. Kiesel still uses Floyd's, right? As far as I saw on their website. Somebody mentioned, I think they said they stopped. Now I got to double check. Well, I'm just going to say, I'm pretty sure they do. I'm sure they're still using Floyd's. But that would be a way to go. I mean, here's the thing. There's not a... Who else? Schecter. Schecter has stainless steel frets with Floyd Rose guitars. There's a bunch of Schecters. The Schecter that I love, the one I have, I think it's the Venom, that guitar comes in an option with a Floyd Rose guitar. That's a really cool guitar as well. So there is options out there with stainless steel frets and Floyd Rose guitars. But the Jackson one is pretty impressive. I have to tell you, I've been eyeballing it for a long time as well, especially for that price point. Custom shop Jackson's in the $4,000 up range, and it's just the same thing as what the production stuff. It looks the same. There's differences, but the differences are even less than what the core difference to S2 is. The differences from custom shop to the production Jackson USA. Antique Rocker says, I don't like the overdrives played through reverb channel on my Fender Twin AB switch. AB switch a signal clean to reverb channel and a B through my overdrives to clean channel. Any potential problems with this? So what he's basically saying is he doesn't like running the overdrive into the reverb sound of his amp. He's using the Fender Twin, but of course they would do the same problem with the Fender 65 Deluxe. So he's using an AB channel, AB box to run a overdrive channel into the part of the amp, the side of the amp, the channel that doesn't, because you can run those channels simultaneously. That doesn't have reverb, and he's running as clean as reverb, and he's just A-Bing them. That's how everybody used to do it back in the day. It's so the channels without reverb on those Fender amps tend to sound better with pedals than the regardless of having reverb or not. They're voiced a little bit more differently, and I think they sound better with. So, yeah, there's no problems with what you're doing, other than it's just it's a process. You know what I mean? It's a more of a process. Me personally, look, if you want to do it that way, that's great. A suggestion for you, how I do it, I just run my pedal board and I have reverb on my pedal board into the front of the amp, and I don't use the reverb on the amp then. Some people don't like that. Some people do. It depends on how determined you are to get that real spring reverb. I really don't care. Like, I use spring reverb, but to be honest, I personally prefer plate reverbs over springs. So I'll use the plate or the hall reverb on the pedal more than I will use the spring, and I like it better. I once told my friend Matt, I said, all reverbs are fake. When somebody says it's real spring reverb, I'm like, no, it's not. Real reverb happens naturally through the acoustics. And so in a canyon, in a room, that's real reverb. If you were recording reverb for real, like they do in recordings back in the day, they found rooms or places that had reverb, and they made, and then Fender and other companies figured out they could make reverb approximations with springs, essentially an analog, kind of a attempt to make reverb. We hear spring reverb through so many recordings that we like it, right? Because it's what you grew up with. It's the music you heard. The musicians used it, and so when you hear it now, your brain references that it sounds good because it sounded good when it was on those albums. But realistically, acoustically is the most accurate reverb. So my argument isn't that I by the way, I love spring reverb in amps. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying I don't have a preference so strong that I have to have those, because to me it's like, I like that, but I also, if I'm using a synthetic reverb in the first place, I have all these other great digital reverbs that sound great I can use as well. So I'm just telling you, first, yes, your idea works. There's no problems with it. But two, I just wanted you to know how I do it. Maybe just to give you a perspective. There's a different way of looking at things. So, so funny story. Somebody says, sing in the bathtub reverb. So in my office here, okay, so this is my office, to this wall, where I'm looking at, we have a closet. I have a closet. You walk in, it has racks of guitars in it. And then the other door on the other side is to the bathroom. So I have a restroom. And it's actually it's not a big restroom, but it's long. It's got a long hallway-ish thing to it. And it's all tiled and stuff. And so I actually record a lot with my amp in there. In fact, just to actually be totally transparent about the craziness, I don't just put an amp in there. There's amps in there now. In fact, what's in there now is my Marshall 2061 head in a Marshall 212 cabinet, my Friedman small box on a Friedman 212 cabinet, the Tone King head with the 112 cabinet that you saw last week here. That's why I was here. I pulled it out of the hallway area of the bathroom for a second to get to something, to move something around. I think I needed a mic stand or something. And so I'll record with no reverb, and that room makes natural reverb. I like it. So somebody says, was the water on? No. So because it's my office, it's kind of funny. Like it has a bathroom and then has like so it's separated, right? So there's sinks, and then there's like this hallway thing, and then there's another room attached to it that has the commode and the and the shower and stuff. And I don't use the shower, so the shower is where I store stuff in there. So if you like open the shower curtain, you just see like I think Shauna stores stuff in there. She just puts stuff in there that we don't know what to do with. So somebody says, "Can you get a tour of office?" You are. You just saw. This is the office. You're not seeing. There's a door right here that as soon as these guitars in and you're in a door, this is a window that lets me see out. So you'd see a window right here, and then there's two. Like I said, maybe we'll do it, but I mean, there's nothing really. It's not exciting. It's just an office in a house. It's very unexciting. At least it feels unexciting. Okay. I want to do another. Here's Grumpy Mike Guitar. He says, for the tone jar, and why not? Not surprised about Sam Ash. I've had multiple issues with him over the last 7 or 8 months. Cheers. So I don't want to talk about that because, so Grumpy, Shauna told me you had talked to her and you were telling her that you were working on an idea for a video because she asked me about it. She's like, hey, I wanted to ask you a question. So she asked me the question. It was just easier to relay while I was doing something. And so I don't want to take, but in your situation, what was happening to you, I'll keep it not cryptic because I don't want to keep everybody out of it. But so Grumpy My Guitar bought a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to tell the whole story. So in case he wants to do his video, I won't ruin the video. I'm not going to ruin the ending of the story. He had bought some stuff on Sam Ash. And essentially what happened was after he purchased it, he got an email saying, hey, we don't have this. And then he's like, okay, and they cancel it and they do a refund. And then a couple days later, they email and they go, oh, we do have this. Okay. And this happened to him a couple of times. And so essentially his issue, and so Grumpy, this will help you. The issue you were having was exactly what I was talking about, how antiquated their systems were. They weren't like pulling a fast one. It's because their system it's not very good. It's antiquated. It doesn't update very efficiently. It doesn't hold a lot of data. There's too many input ports for it. In other words, too many people have access to it. And I know you're surprised because his problem was slightly attached to a reverb at Sam Ash situation, but it doesn't matter. It's an inventory system problem. So if you haven't dealt with it, the best way to explain this is there's let's talk about Tolman, okay? Because this will make things easy. At Tolman, which their warehouse is insane, right? Like I think Sam Ash's Sweetwater's is 500,000 square feet. Tolman's is bigger than that. So you're talking about over 500,000 square feet of warehouse space at Tolman. It's all robots and animated, automated stuff. And literally, not only do they know where every single thing is, okay, you can push buttons and you type in like guitar picks, and it literally, a thing gets guitar picks and brings it to you, and then you put it in the bag and you ship it to the customer. They know exactly what they have. They know exactly when to order it. They know exactly where it's at in the system. This actually ties into a couple things and explaining the differences of companies, which is where this show, I hope, helps people, good musicians who want to know this stuff, maybe understand. Somebody was explaining on my Patreon page, they were talking about if you call Kiesel and ask where something is, they're like, oh, we'll find out. We don't know. And they go, well, and they were talking about how Paul Reed Smith and Music Man, especially Music Man, they have barcodes on everything. And so what happens in Music Man is like employee gets the body, starts working on the body, they scan it. So if you call somebody and talk to them at Music Man and go, hey, where's this guitar? They go, oh, the body's right now in paint. The neck is getting fretted. They know exactly where all the components are. They are. But the size difference of those companies are massive to do it that way. What happened with a Kiesel is, if you watch the end of the tour I did with him, he talks about this briefly, that they used to have a barcoding system, but they got rid of it. The reason they got rid of it is not that it doesn't work, it works, but if you've ever worked for a small company, a small business, a small group, if you're just you and a partner, maybe you do a job and it's just you and somebody else that does that job, sometimes big systems can be very cumbersome for when you just have a couple people communicating. So it was inefficient for them from their size. So same thing with this ties in, because look at Tolman and look at Sweetwater. Their inventory systems are dialed in. They know where stuff is at all times. Sam Ash and Guitar Center's inventory systems are not that same level, as you know. Guitar Center is better, but Sam Ash, the company, did not go as tech heavy as you can imagine. To give you a reference, I'm always, my majority of my personality is very positive, but every once in a while, I get irritated, and it's very easy to see how I get irritated. The first time I got in this industry, the very first time I got in this industry, I was setting up my business, and the very first company I got, the big company I got to work with, was Fender, and Fender wanted my fax number, and I went, I don't have a fax machine. What the hell are you talking about? I thought they were kidding. And they were like, you need a fax machine. We're going to fax you. We're going to fax this to you. You're going to sign it and send it back. I go, email it to me. I'll e-sign it and send it back. Are you kidding me? And they go, no, we fax. I go, you're the largest, you're like the largest guitar company in the world. You're faxing? They go, all the dealers fax. Everyone faxes. They go, look, Phil. This is what they told me. They go, look, Phil, half the dealers are 60 years old. They've been faxing for 20 years. This is how they do things here. And I'm like, this is silly. I can just send it to my phone. I'll e-sign it and send it back. Right? So you got to understand, the industry, it's a little antiquated, the guitar industry. It's not a tech industry. So same thing. So some companies really, everybody hedged their bets, okay? And the bets were, some companies like Sam Ash hedged on the whole, hey, let's keep the current brick and mortar business model going. It's the way it works. Some companies like Sweetwater said, we don't want to grow stores. We're going to build warehouses and invest in all technology. And, there's no ultimate winner in all this. There isn't, but there is. So, it's funny. Matt Harrison says that's when you go to Kinko's. We had to go to the UPS store to fax. It took a year for Shauna to finally convince me to get a fax machine. I refused to buy a fax machine. I go, this is stupid. She finally did it because she's like, this one's a fax copier and printer. Can we get this? And I said, okay. But I was like, I refused to buy a fax machine. Everyone faxed. Up until 2017, some vendors were still faxing stuff. So it's weird industry. You know what it's time for? It's time to take a break, I guess. And
now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
Guitar of the Week. Look at that. I want to do Guitar of the Week. If you guys don't mind, it's a nice little fun little break for me. I get to share a guitar with you, something interesting, something different. This was a guitar that was brought up. Brought up recently a few times. It was in a video, but it doesn't have a video dedicated to it. So let me go ahead and grab it and talk about it. And I'll just grab it. So first, let me grab it and we'll talk about it. First of all, I got a lot of comments saying, how come you don't show any acoustic guitars? I'm like, okay, so we'll show some acoustic guitars. So that's what we'll do. This one was in my video that I did about restringing, the ultimate, like mistakes guitar players make restringing guitars. So I use this guitar. This guitar is amazing. So let me share this guitar, the story behind it, because I think the story might be interesting. This is a Furch guitar. So this is made in the Czech Republic, and I want to tell you, the first thing that's probably most important is it's one of the best sounding acoustic guitars and playing acoustic guitars I've ever played that's made of wood. Okay, because if you can't see, I have an emerald guitar right there, and in the carbon fiber world, that emerald guitar is just next level. And that video is coming soon. When I say it's coming soon, it's been done. The patrons got to see it. I guess if you really need to see it right now, you can pay $5 and see it, but don't, because it's coming out in like a week. Okay, so but they seen it a while back. So this guitar, let's talk about this. So like I said, this is the Furch. This model is the Blue Deluxe SW. So it's got a Sitka spruce top with black walnut. The black walnut is right here. See where the arm carve is? So it's just beautiful. So your arm feels nice inside. Nice. I'm going to go to the feature set. Okay, what do we have? We have its 14th neck to body joint at the 14th fret. Solid back and sides is black walnut. Look at that. And then look at that little carve, little belly carve. Look at that. Okay. It's got ebony bridge pins with an ebony bridge. Okay. It's a tusk with a Q saddle. I always have to say tusk with a Q. A couple times I say tusk, and people put in the comments like, that's horrible. You're killing elephants. And I'm like, okay, it's not real tusk. It's tusk with a Q. It's man-made material. The bridge string spacing is 2 3/16. It is an open pore finish, so it feels natural. So again, you just feel all this beautiful wood. And then it has a black transparent pickguard. I didn't notice that. I guess I did. I didn't notice it. I thought it was just black. It's got a ebony headstock overlay. There you go, with the Furch logo inlaid. Ebony fretboard. The fingerboard radius is 15 3/4, so basically 16-inch radius. Let's just keep it easy that way. Available nut width is 1 11/16. So, it's available. The nut width on this is, this is 1 11/16. This one is. Okay. The neck material is African mahogany. And so you can kind of tell what they're doing. They're going for like the highest grade of materials. The guitar just sounds and plays amazing. And, the rosette inlay is also double ring with black walnut inlay. I'm trying to think of anything else that's really cool too. It's just weird that it calls the tusk nut a 0 fret, but it's not a 0 fret tusk nut. I don't know what they mean by that. It comes with Elixir 12 to 53 strings. And some of you guys are not going to like this. Well, let me get this last thing out. The tuners are machine chrome Furch, so they're just generic tuners that say Furch on them, but they're very good quality and very nice. Some of you guys may not like this. It doesn't come with a case. It comes with a really nice deluxe gig bag. I actually love that, but so you know, it's a very heavily padded gig bag, a la, Paul Reed Smith style, high quality gig bag. Really nice, very cool. The reason the story is funny on this guitar, maybe it is funny, at least it'll tell you, is that I made the statement it's one of the best sounding wood acoustic guitars I've ever played. And here's what's funny about this. So Furch sent this guitar out, and they said, hey, we want to send you a guitar. We just want you to check it out, see what you think of it. I got it. I was like, I love it. By the way, Ryan's saying, how come acoustics never have locking tuners? I don't know why. I put locking tuners on my Taylor. Monty Montgomery has locking tuners on his. I have no idea. Probably because acoustic guitar players are very traditionalists, and maybe that's just not, me. Locking tuners to me is just faster restring. So faster restrings, the better. But what's funny about this acoustic guitar that's so crazy is, so they send the guitar out. I get the guitar. I'm playing it. I love it. and it's really cool. And basically, Ralph's birthday was coming, and he wants a really nice acoustic guitar, and I knew he wanted a really nice acoustic guitar for a while. And so I go, I have this idea. I tell Sean I'm going to do this. Okay. Hold on. Aaron's short music me laugh. He goes, when it needs a refret, would you do stainless? If it did need a refret, I would do stainless, even on an acoustic guitar. I don't care. In fact, so let's go on a side note on this. Since Aaron's got me sideways on this. I was just talking about this too recently. You know what's funny about stainless steel frets is everybody keeps telling me that, stainless steel frets sound horrible. I can't stand the way they sound. I can't stand the way they sound. Here's what makes me kind of chuckle. Every time I do a video of some inexpensive guitar, some made in China, Amazon grade guitar that has stainless steel frets, everybody goes, well, did they have stainless steel frets? And I go, I don't know. And they go, hey, well, you need to test them. We need to get a chemical. We need to test them. And I'm always laughing going, yeah, we do, because if they're saying the stainless steel frets, we need to prove it. But also, doesn't that also sound interesting to you guys? That half the internet's like, stainless steel frets sound horrible, and the other half are like, how can you tell that they're stainless steel? You're like, shouldn't it be that easy to tell if they sound horrible? The guitar is bright. It's and I talk about this. I refretted my Paul Reed Smith Miro with stainless steel frets, Jescar stainless steel frets. I literally cannot tell a difference. And I don't think most players can tell the difference between the frets. I don't think it's impossible. Paul Reed Smith, Nathan was telling me that Paul Reed Smith at the factory was showing the employees that he can tell the difference. And Nathan was also explaining to me that when you polish them, because I polish frets, but I never thought about this. He goes, when you polish them, you can see that there's no hazing in the no hazing in the stainless steel frets. One way I can tell if stainless steel frets are bad is there's tons of grooves in them. They're really hard to polish out. So that's one thing I can tell. But when it comes to sound, I just can't tell. I just can't tell. And for those that can hear it, I understand your grief, and I wish you better travels. But for the rest of you guys that are obsessing over something that you really can't hear, just understand that the only reason, like me, people are gung-ho for stainless steel is, it's do it and forget it. I mean, it's like, maybe it's just my mentality. It's like, I don't have to do it again. I didn't want to do it in the first place, so I'll never do it again. So here's the funny part of the story of the guitar. So I tell Sean I'm going to do this. She goes, okay. I said, Ralph's coming over. I go, I'm going to let him go through all my acoustics, and whichever one he likes, he can keep. She goes, okay. So he went through all my acoustics, and I thought for sure he was going to pick one of my Taylors, right? In fact, I have a Taylor right there. I thought that the Taylor you can kind of see in this half screen over in the corner. I thought for sure he's going to pick that one for sure. He went through all the guitars and he goes, this Furch is absolutely the best guitar. And I'm like, really? And he's like, absolutely. I'm like, all right. So what I'm demoing today is a beautiful Furch guitar that belongs to Ralph. Okay, so I'm going to play it for you. Let's switch views, if you don't mind. Go to guitar view. And I will give you a little sample of this thing. Let me a little playing. I hope you don't mind. Here we go. So I think it sounds a beautiful guitar. Keep in mind, this is not a fancy rig setup here. I just have a mic set up into the interface, the same interface that has this mic, so I didn't do anything crazy. I'm not manipulating anything here. You're just hearing pretty much a raw mic on the guitar. And then Aaron says, what model is this? This is the Blue Deluxe SW. So this doesn't have a transducer pickup in it. So there's no pickup in this one. You can order one with it. Funny thing about it was, funny thing about this guitar was I was blown away, and then when Ralph's like, that's the best sounding guitar, I want that one. I'm like, oh, well, they just sent that for a review. I'm like, all right, I will, okay, all right. But I was thinking the whole time going, I think this is the guitar, I'm gonna get rid of my Taylors. And I was thinking, as I told you guys when I was talking about the Heritage versus the Gibson thing, I just can't have all these guitars. I mean, can't have everything. Where would you put it? George Carlin reference. Anyways, he says, I was thinking he would pick the Taylor, and then that would unburden me to go, oh, I have this Furch now, and it's gorgeous, and I love it. And instead, he picked the Furch. So I'll get to borrow it from time to time, but this is Ralph's new beautiful Furch guitar, and I have to tell you, I'm impressed. Am I going to get a Furch now? I am going to get a Furch. Why do I like it? I'll tell you why. I've been a huge fan. I'm a Martin fan for sure. I'm a Gibson acoustic fan for absolute sure. The modern acoustic sound. So to me, Martin and Gibson, to me, it's like there's a sound there that this Furch doesn't come into that great. Okay, it's a different tone, right? It's like comparing a Les Paul to a Strandberg, right? Modern guitar versus vintage vibed instruments. To me, Taylor guitars are more of a modern sound, like Breedloves. As you guys know, I love Breedlove. I love Taylors. The Furch has got more of the modern vibe, but here's what Furch bridges. One of my favorite acoustic guitars of all time, all absolute time, is Cole Clark. I've talked about Cole Clark many, many times. And I had a Cole Clark that I absolutely love. I talked about having a Kramer curse once. I might have an acoustic curse. I had this Cole Clark that I absolutely loved. And a good friend of mine and Shauna, who we've known since high school, essentially did our pool service. He had a pool company. And one day he mentioned, he's like, hey, because we had the store, he's like, hey, can we barter? Can I just do your pool service and get an acoustic guitar? And I said, sure. So he's at my house and he played my Cole Clark, and he goes, I want one like this. And I said, okay. And then we just forever couldn't get a hold of that model Cole Clark, which was the Fat Lady is what it's called. And this went on for a long time. So I said, screw it. I just gave him my Cole Clark. And then as things happen, Cole Clark raised their prices. And then I was like, gotta pay more for the same thing I just had. And I couldn't talk myself back into it. And I've always regretted not doing that, because since then, Cole Clark's almost doubled since what I paid for it back in the day. And this Furch is like the Taylor and the Cole Clark came together and it made a Furch baby. It's probably the stupidest thing I've said. I've said some stupid things. So this is an absolutely beautiful guitar. If you haven't heard of Furch, I recommend you check it out. I know some of you are going to go, what does it cost? Okay, so this one is about $1,500 street price. So to give you a reference, what it's competing with Taylor, that puts it at slightly just below Taylor. But there's the reason why I say it reminds me of Cole Clark, one thing about Cole Clark is they do some really interesting, besides, I think, the best acoustic pickup system in the entire planet Earth. But I'm going to show you here the Cole Clark. The Furch. The Furch uses this CNR system. Look at how crazy this is. So this is how this works. This is how they have this system in here, and you can learn all about it. It's a fully adjustable dual truss rod for highly precise adjustments of the neck bow in both convex and concave directions. So again, they're doing some really interesting, cool things. It's really cool. The funny thing is when they sent the guitar out, we had a little mishap. The person who sent the guitar, I don't think she works there anymore. She sent me the guitar, and I said, cool. And then she said, she goes, you need to fill out some tax paperwork. That's how it always works, by the way. So I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of times when you guys ooh and ah of these YouTubers like me going, hey, we got a guitar for free, you got to understand a lot of times a 1099 follows it. So it's like, I got it for free, but I got to pay, for it, the value of it. And where it gets a little tricky sometimes is companies all have different point of views of what the cost of a guitar is. So give an example, you guys all know, you're all guitar geeks like me, that you can get 10% off a guitar. You know you can find a deal on a guitar, right? You know you can get a guitar for half the price, almost used, right? So you can understand that if a guitar is like $3,000 and you can find one used for about $1,800, and somebody's going to 1099 you for retail, which says $5,800, you're going to pay more in taxes than you can buy the guitar used. It almost doesn't make sense. You might as well just buy it used. So I had to wait forever to figure that out. So I think we got that finally dialed in and stuff. So I wanted to share the guitar with you, and there you go. So, and let you know that Ralph picked it over all my acoustics. So there you go. All right. So I think I'll get a Furch. I almost thought about doing the Cole Clark, but I don't know. I think the Furch is I don't know. We'll just have to see. Tell me in the comment sections, what do you think I should do? A Cole Clark or a Furch? What do you think I should get? Dougal Dog says, hey, it's only $2,800 in Australia. For the Furch or for the Cole Clark? The Cole Clarks, I would assume, are cheaper since they make them in Australia. So it's funny. Okay. All right, let's go on. We did the guitar of the week. Thank you guys for indulging the guitar of the week. I think it's a lot of fun. It's nice to share. I'm trying not to just talk about just generic guitars. I want to talk about guitars that have an interesting story or something reference, something funny. So I don't know, something interesting. Break it up a little bit. And it also gives me a little break, believe it or not. So I don't have to so I don't lose my voice by the end of the show. All right, Steve Wright says, how does your Theos compare to an Aries or Delos, thinking about the next Kiesel? So the Theos was, I ordered a Theos. Let me go grab it. As soon as I figure out where it's at. It's in the closet. Hold on a second. It's not here. It's actually in the shop. Okay, so it's in the shop. So the Theos that I have, I got it because I had a Suhr Modern, and Suhr is a guitar that Suhr guitars and Paul Reed Smith guitars, with all the love and respect I can give to both those brands, are the two brands that I've been struggling with my whole high-end guitar life. The day I graduated or decided that I was dumb enough to start buying expensive high-end guitars, considering there's not much difference over the medium price guitars. You kind of go, okay, you're gonna get high-end guitars, man. You gotta go Paul Reed Smith, gotta go Suhr. Suhr and PRS guitars are guitars that I have owned more than I ever want to admit to. I have bought and flipped because I just never land. I'm never 100% happy with them. It's just, they don't do anything for me. They're always like, I like the Suhr, Suhr and Paul Smith. The thing I can tell you is quality is amazing. Fit and finish, amazing. Workmanship, amazing. Everything everybody says, but I just don't bond with them at all. I don't know what it is. I just keep getting one and I go, either the neck doesn't feel right or it's just not the right vibe. So I had a Kiesel Modern, I had a Suhr Modern, and I kept thinking, I go, well, maybe I'll get a Kiesel Theos, right? It was one of when Kiesel started working with me and they're saying, hey, let's make a guitar and send it to you. And I said, let's do a Theos. And the Theos is like the Modern, except for the body's a slightly bigger. It is chambered, so it's weight relieved, so it's nice. Mine's a roasted neck, and it's a really great guitar, and it helped me because I got rid of my Modern because, it's a fraction of the price. It's my Theos at the time was like $1,600 to $1,800. Now unfortunately it's more, but it was a lot less money. When I did it on the builder, I think I'm pretty sure I remember coming out to less than 18, and my Modern was like $4,300 was the street price on that. I bought my Modern used though, and I just didn't vibe with it. So the Theos, what I was going to basically say is I like the Theos as much as the Modern, but I got to tell you, I don't like the Theos more than the Modern or less. I like them both about the same. Just it's a lot easier to have a guitar that's not, it's half the price, and it's easier to validate that for when you're using it. My Theos is tuned down to D, so the entire guitar is D. So it's like, that's why I use it for that. Just for some reason, the guitar sounds really great, down tuned to full step. So I use it for that. And identifies as, I wish I could afford a Suhr. Look, as someone who's had a half a dozen or more Suhrs or more, here's what I can tell you. There are a lot of guitars that are as good as a Suhr for a lot less money. It doesn't mean Suhr is overhyped, it's overpriced. It doesn't mean that. It just means a lot of people are able to achieve what Suhr does for a lot less money. It always gets me in trouble every time I bring it up, but I'm going to say it because there's so many people out there that make videos going, I got a Kiesel and I got to tell you the Suhr blows it away. Look, the Suhr does not blow a Kiesel away. The Suhr is maybe slightly better than a Suhr. Suhr is slightly better than the Kiesel in fit and finish, maybe. Here's what I can tell you. When a Kiesel is fit and finished perfectly and you get it out of the box and it's right, it's as good, if not, it's as good as a Suhr any day. The only thing I will tell you is it's more likely you'll get a Kiesel with a fret sprout or an issue than you will Suhr, because Suhr spends a lot more time on the guitar than Kiesel does, but Suhr also charges you two times the price or more, so that's the thing. So you can get Suhr quality in a Kiesel. You can get Suhr quality in a Shiji. Every Shiji I reviewed is as good as a Suhr. And again, this is where I'll end up on Reddit tonight. I know it. They'll be like, one of you guys will email me and go, oh, they're attacking you on Reddit because you could just make people nuts talking about this. And again, I'd like to point out, I'm a huge fan of Suhr. I like their guitars, just like I'm a huge fan of PRS. I like their guitars. I keep buying them because I like the brands. I think John Suhr, I think Paul Reed Smith are amazing individuals, and they do interesting things. And I like supporting them as a guitar fanatic. But it's a lot less, money to do other things. So 251 says on Reddit. Yeah, sometimes the Reddit forums, it happens. It's okay. But I was gonna say, so his question was basically about the Theos versus the Delos versus the A2. Was it the A2? Is that what you asked for? Yeah, the Aries. Okay, the Aries. So I have an Aries, I have an A2, I have a Delos. I personally play the Delos the most because it's a Strat. So I'm just playing the Delos because it's a Strat. It feels like a 60 Strat to me. It feels good. It looks good. I like it. So it appeals to me. And it's going to sound weird because I have a signature Delos. It's like, so if you can only have one guitar fill, it's your signature, right? You're like, it probably would be, but I would be remiss to tell you that the A2 is the best guitar that I've ever seen Kiesel make. The A2 is by far the best guitar. If you don't like the modern vibe of it, I totally get it. Okay, I totally get it. I'm more towards the Delos, where I'm just traditional, boring, give me a pickup truck and a Strat and I'm a happy guy. I'm just nothing special. I'm not I like to think I'm edgy and cool. I'm just not. But the A2, so I have two A2s. You're about to see another one. I have one that just got here today, an hour and a half before the show started, that I waited 14 months for, and I have to tell you, it's the best Kiesel guitar I've ever played in my life. And that's only funny because I told you guys all before that A2 behind me was the best Kiesel I ever played before in my life. That's now the second best Kiesel, and both the Kiesels I say are the best guitars I ever played in my A2s. I would highly recommend you look at the A2s. I think the A2s are one of those things where it's like everything Jeff learned about guitars, he just put into the A2. The neck carve, the vibe, everything. So, but if that helps, that's just some input for you. So, T-Sized says, oh, thank you for the super chat, T-Sized. I appreciate that. It says, hey, Phil, I'm looking for my first new Charvel, torn between the San Dimas Pro Mod with the 59JB and the satchel with Fishman Glass Mix. I know, I like the satchels, just look cool, right? Thoughts on the different pickups? Only played the Fishman Moderns. I'm not a fan. So I absolutely love the Fishman Classics over the Moderns. That's what I learned demoing all the Fishmans. The Fishman guys are really cool. They're one of the few good pickup companies that like the channel. I shouldn't say that. I mean, obviously DeMarzio likes the channel. Dylan Talks Tone likes the channel. What I mean likes the channel is like, as you guys know, I have the ability to swap pickups and do stuff. It's like very rarely do the pickup companies want to have me do content. Fishman's always like, hey, we got a new pickup coming out. Let's send them pickups. So I appreciate that. So I get to try. What's great about that is I get to try a lot of things. My joy is in trying things. I like to try new things, and I love to share which is why I'm long-winded and talk all the time. I'm a sharer. So the Fishman, I learned from all the Fishman pickups that I'm just a Fishman classic person. The satchel guitar is cool. If the holdback on the satchel guitar is the Fishman classics, I think you'll like them. But here's the easy part. I like the Pro Mud, I like the satchel, but what I'll tell you is, I'm a huge JB fan. JB is one of my favorite pickups of all time. And that being said, I'm a different mentality when it comes to 80s shredder guitars. To me, it's 80s shredder guitars, always DiMarzio's for me. As much as I like the JB for an 80s shredder guitar, I put my Charvels have DiMarzio's in them. And if it was me, I'd get the San Dimas because that's what I had before. But if you want the satchel, get the satchel, but you can replace the pickups even if they're active. It's not a huge expense. You can get a JB59 set, drop them in there, replace out the pots. The switch will stay. The output jack, you can reuse it if you want, but I just get a new output jack. It's not huge expense if you want to switch it. And I'm not telling you to switch it. I'm telling you if you want to switch it. It's not a huge expense and it's not very hard to do. Don't let the active pickups scare you into thinking there's something going on that's kind of crazy. They're essentially the same. So there's just a battery. So you'll take the battery out and the battery compartment will be empty. And so I would say, because you sound apprehensive about Fishman, get the Charvel Pro Mod. But if you really want that satchel, don't let the active pickups freak you out. That's something that can be changed pretty easy. Gas Addict says, shout out to Kiesel. They knocked off $250 for an in-stock guitar I wanted after I told them about my BL experience and losing $250 on the order. The bad. Okay, so what Gas Addict's saying is, so when he ordered a Badlands guitar, he canceled it and Badlands stuck him for $250. So this is an interesting comment, Gas Addict. You have more to the question. I want to go on to the subject. Because this is an actual thing that got sent to us being me and Shauna, and it came up last week, but there's been so much stuff going on. And this week, of course, with Sam Ash, it got pushed to the wayside. Restocking fees. And what was interesting about this is people were talking about restocking fees. So Kiesel currently runs a 20% restocking fee. Badlands has a 25% restocking fee, which, was not my, I wasn't part of that, so that decision. And then what came up was when I talked about Vola the other week, and I said that they sell direct and they dropped the price 20-30% because they took the dealer cost out to sell direct to increase sales. Somebody sent me a message saying, hey, Phil, just so you know, I bought a Vola, and if you return it, they have a 20% restocking fee. Now, I got to tell you, and again, there's bias, right? I'm going to have bias. My bias, I'm going to defend Kiesel's restocking fee. And I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, please call me out on it. You don't have to be jerks. Just say, Phil, you're incorrect. But I'm going to tell you what I think I understand with Kiesel. Kiesel allows you to order a custom guitar specifically for you with a 20% down payment, is my understanding, right? You put a percentage down. You don't have to pay for the whole thing in front. And then if you cancel that guitar, they hit you for a 20% restocking fee. And then is my understanding that then they take your guitar that Jeff argues, and I'm not arguing whether he's right or wrong, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I've heard him say the argument, is that because now the guitar is kind of custom to you, they now put it on their in-stock report at a discount. So essentially, the person who gets, I don't want to say screwed because that doesn't seem fair, but the person who gets, Chris says, yes, it's 20% down. Okay, so the person was 20% down on this custom-made instrument that they picked out. They lose it, which sucks. But then somebody who buys it gets a deduction. Now, what I don't know is that they get the full 20%. Maybe they get 10% off. I look, sometimes I've seen those in stocks go for way less than 20% off. Sometimes I've seen them go for less. But either way, Kiesel seems to be passing the savings on to you to entice you to buy the in-stock over, because what Jeff says, which I agree, is when people look at the in-stocks, they're like, well, if it's the same price of what I can order myself, I'll just order what exactly I want, not what somebody else wanted. So I kind of understand that logic. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm giving it my 2 cents of justice. What I don't understand is the Vola Badlands restocking fees, because those are production guitars. Now on the Badlands thing, what I don't know, because as you know, I feel I was integral in starting the Badlands business model. I helped start it up, but I'm not involved with it now. I don't know what happens to the 20%. So basically, Gas Addict, what I hope happens is, since the guitar that you purchased from Badlands, so what I'm basically saying is, I feel bad that you got hit with a restocking fee. What I'm telling you is, I think it's justified if one thing happens. If Badlands takes that guitar that you canceled and now has offered it to someone else at a 20% discount to entice them to buy it, because it's the same guitar. It's not like Badlands made different guitars that you didn't specify anything different. The option change out that you have is either lefty, hardtail, or tremolo. Somebody gets your discount. It sucks for you. I don't 100% agree with it, but at least somebody else gets it. What I don't understand is if they get to keep it. With Vola, same thing. So this is what I'm saying when I say, please call me out if I'm wrong. I'm just going off the information you guys are telling me, and I'm trying to understand it. Vola, if they sell you a guitar and then you don't like it for some reason, and they tell you it's a 20% restocking, you can send it back. I'm like, look, we live in a world of Amazon and Sweetwater, and Sweetwater has restocking fees too. But so you know, I'll tell you right now, if you got hit with a restocking fee at Sweetwater, it's rare, because I can talk. And if you guys want me to do a video or talk about it on the podcast, I can tell you how I talk Sweetwater out of a restocking fee. And it has nothing to do with I'm a YouTuber, because I've been doing it for a long time before I was a YouTuber. There's a way to talk people out of restocking fees for the most part, right? All you have to do is find a win-win for somebody. Restocking fees are usually about cutting losses. There's a lot of fees. Sometimes there's credit card fees coming in both directions, and they want you to pay those, not them. And there's ways that you can incentivize them to say, hey, look, instead of you hitting me with a restocking fee, can't we do something else? So it's more in depth than that. Maybe we'll talk about it. If you guys find that interesting, let me know. But with Vola, same thing. I would hope that if they're charging a restocking fee to get the guitar back on a production guitar that's not special, that then that guitar is going on their website as a B stock return, something discounted. That I understand, right? Somebody has to pay for the losses somehow. But what's interesting is, this is exactly Gas Addict, what I appreciate. It says, shout out to Kiesel. They knocked off $250 for an in-stock guitar after I told them that Badlands experience, I lost $250. And this is what I always preach is great business. Kiesel earned your business. They got your business. I'm glad they did. By the way, I'd be glad if Badlands got your business too. I mean, it's as honest as I can be, I don't get anything from Kiesel or Badlands. There's no money coming to me from either company. So I don't have any incentive either way for you to, for this to win for you. But I like it when people are happy. Why? Because it's what I love, this whole thing, talk about guitars. And I like it when companies do right by people, because, it's what I live for, right? It's like I live to have a great experience like all of you. I work hard. I tell everybody, I work hard for my money. And when I give it to somebody, I want to feel like I've enriched my life with it. I want to, So he says, I appreciate you. There's more to it. He says, I appreciate you trying to go above and beyond for us addicts. So I think Gas Addict, I don't know who you are, because I don't know the name Gas Addict. But I've been talking to people who had restocking fees with Badlands. Some I paid their fees. I paid the restocking fees out of my own pocket, and some I offered to give some black stock pickups or accessories. If you are a person who got a restocking fee from Badlands and it didn't work out for you, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I will do what I can to take care of you. If you purchase a guitar from my recommendation, there you go. And so I Gas Addict, I did it for like four people so far. So I don't know which one you are. I'm assuming, I think I know who you are, because I think you're the one that didn't want me to compensate you. And if you are who I think you are, you wanted me to give away a set of black stock pickups, which I do plan to do on the show as soon as I have some made. I got to wind some up. So thank you, Gas Addict, for the feedback, and thank you for sharing the experience with everybody. Missouri, thank you for the super chat. Jay Marble says, it's getting warm in Arizona for the AC fund. Yeah, the AC fund. Well, what we did is, if you don't mind giving me like 30, 60 seconds of fun, we've been hiking and walking and hiking and having a blast and riding our bikes. And we took up paddle boarding. And this week we went down the river twice on the paddle boards. I'd like to say neither one of us fell off the paddle boards. I wrecked coming down a part where it got a little rapidy real fast and it threw me into a tree, but I did not fall off the board. I also didn't get stabbed by the tree, which looked like it was about to happen, but that's good. And the funny thing is I made it down the whole river twice. I didn't hurt myself. And then literally while trying to put the boards away, I slipped and fell on my ass, and I am fine. So there you go. Other than the sheer embarrassment of falling in front of people on my butt, because the board was slippery and I went to move it and my hand slipped off and I fell back. So, but good times, and what else are you gonna do, right? So yeah, it's what you do when it's warmer. It's 90 degrees here, and 90 degrees when the water is cold like that is just an amazing time. So I thank you. I appreciate you for the AC fund. We did replace the AC units. It did cost a lot. It's, but hey, so I'll get through the summer. It's good. My joke is, so, you know, I told both my kids when they came over, because they saw the AC units got replaced when they visited, they said, oh, the new AC units are in? I said, yeah, I'm going down to get 2 Honda logos to put on the AC units. And my daughter goes, why are you getting Honda logos to put on the AC units? I go, because they cost as much as a car now. So I go, I want to put a logo on them or something. So there you go. Yeah, Phil of the Jungle, watch out for that tree. There was a guy on the side of the river when I crashed in the tree, and I laid down. I went down real quick, and I laid down on the board flat, so I would go underneath the tree, and it still slammed into the tree. And like I said, I didn't fall off, so I'm really proud of myself. But that guy, I turned my head, and I saw the guy in the river. That guy's face was like horrified. He thought, like, he looked like he just watched a car accident. Whatever he saw was scared him. And then I saw Shauna coming, you know, making sure I was okay. And then she was like, he was talking. I never asked her what she said to him. They were talking for a second, and I think they were saying, like, is he okay? She's like, yeah, he's fine. He's laughing. So I was laughing. That's the important part. So, okay. We need to get through some of this stuff. Otherwise, we're never going to get stuff done. McDowell says, new to me, Martin O28 VS, local shop said, looks dry, grain ridges visible, long-term hydration tips. I like to leave it out at 40, 60% humidity always. That's recommended, right? I would definitely recommend that. If it is a little dry, here's the thing about hydrating guitars that you just want to, and that you just want to keep in mind. Slow goings, right? Don't try to hurry up and hydrate them. And you know, so yeah, just keep it consistent, keep it hydrated, and it will improve. Acoustic guitars, they need a little moisture. So, which is why, another reason why I love Cole Clark's, because they are made in Australia. So they kind of love it here in Arizona. It's like, they're like, hey, every time you get a Cole Clark in Arizona, it's like, this guitar is like, this is like where I'm from, with less deadly things trying to kill me. Same temperatures, just not as many things trying to kill me. Corey says, I returned an amp for repair and they ghosted me after 3.5 months. My local shop, Drum City Guitar Land emailed them. Within 2 hours, they shipped a new amp. Couldn't have done it without a local shop. You know, that is an interesting point. And that, Corey, can I tell you, thank you so much for bringing that kind of comment up, because a lot of times, and I mean a lot of times, when the direct-to-consumer through vendor versus retail store argument is made, I think everybody makes the wrong argument. And the argument is always like, well, vendor's never going to have customer service like a retail store. I'm like, look, they can hire your employees, okay? So when somebody goes, oh, no one does customer service like us, I'm like, you hired somebody to do customer service, they can do it too. And if a Fender sells direct, I'm using Fender as an example, if Fender sells direct and they get to keep 30, 40, 50% more margin that they were giving the dealers, they can take that money and hire the people to give you good customer service, right? So when people tell me that buying direct will never work because the customer service experience will never be the same as stores, I'm like, I call BS. I think it could totally be done. However, Corey has found the one argument that I can't figure out the angle on, which is this. What is nice about a retailer like Guitarland and Drum City is that the retailer, when they make the phone call, okay, that company is not looking at a lost sale. They're looking at lost sales. So you have an amp and you call them and you say, hey, look, I need this amp replaced. And they're like, you're one person with one problem with one amp and you can go away. Okay. But when a dealer calls them and says, I want this customer taken care of and I'm the customer too, and I spend X amount of dollars with you, right? It's a big deal. Right? So there can be some weight given. So that's one thing that dealers do have the power to do for us is they can, and I don't mean just because of their big dealers. I'm talking about even a small dealer, because here's why. You know, when I would deal with any company, I would usually deal with a rep from that company. And I actually said this, I told you, sometimes I'm a nice person, but sometimes you can irritate me and I don't get belligerent. It's just not my personality, but I do have a mouth. And so let me tell you, this is a funny story happened with my Fender rep and me with an issue I once had. And he's an amazing guy. So I just want to say he had to take a lot of grief from me. But anyways, what happened with him once was I was having a problem like yours. Customer was unhappy. I was unhappy. I needed this problem fixed. And I was telling him why it needs to get done. And I used the whole, hey, I want a divorce strategy, right? I went nuclear option. I'm like, I don't want to be a dealer anymore unless you fix this. And he said, which I think he meant to calm me down, but it really did not go in his way. He said, Phil, Fender wouldn't even notice if you're not a dealer anymore. And I said, yeah, but your kids will, and you will when you lose your commissions from me. I said, Fender doesn't need me, you need me, because I'm buying from you. And you're getting commission from me. You need me. You need dealers. Fender will find another dealer, but it won't be your dealer. It'll go to somebody else. So you need to take care of me. And I didn't yell at him. I just seem intense right now because we had that kind of relationship. And he's like, you're right. And he made the phone call and he told me, he's like, you're right. He's like, that's a great way of looking at it, right? Like, it's us. I said, it's not me against Fender. It's you and me. It's you and me. We're the ones. We're the working Joes. We got to make this, we're the ones. I got to pay the mortgage. You got to pay the mortgage. We got to work. I don't care what $1 billion Fender thinks. We got to work together. And they, at the end of the day, they want you to make me happy. You want to make me happy. I want to make you happy. And we both want to make this customer happy. We got to get this done. And so it doesn't matter. It's the same thing as what's happened with his amp. It's the dealer can speak up for you and they can have clout and weight. So that's one argument that I want to give out there when people say, the direct-to-consumer business model is going to suck if we lose the dealers. I absolutely think things like that are going to go to the wayside because the manufacturers will come up with more obstacles to drive us crazy. So that I always go ahead and concede to. I'm conceding to that argument. Great argument, Corey. Thank you for that. And thank you for letting me go on a tangent down memory lane. So Space Llama Pickups, that's awesome. If you guys don't know Space Llama Pickups, he makes these really great hand-wound pickups. What's great about, look, he doesn't need a commercial, but I'm gonna give him one anyways. You can check him out on Facebook, Space Llama. I bought a set of his pickups at the guitar show, I wanna say 2022? Does that sound right? Sounds right. It was like right after, like we could go outside without a mask or something. So, so he makes hand-wound pickups here in Arizona. Very high quality stuff. Super passionate. In fact, he's kind of a sleeper company. He's a sleeper. He's also a sleeper Instagram channel. If you watch him, man, he burns the midnight oil coming up with new ideas and working on stuff and teaching a lot. If you want to learn about pickups, he's a good source for that. So his question, what is his? Any general advice for my next guitar show as a small guitar pickup company? I'm not really good at the guitar shows. I have gone to guitar shows and I kind of have the same approach with guitar shows that I do with Sam Ash. When Sam Ash, the company, said, hey, let's do a clinic, and I said, okay, and I said, well, here's the problem. You're going to fly me out. You're going to put me in a hotel. 30 people are going to come. I'm going to talk. And essentially what I did for Kiesel, right? You're going to fly me out. Well, I drove out. You're going to drive out. You're going to put me in a hotel. I'm going to talk to a few people. I talk to 1,000 people live on a Friday show and I can get 30,000, 40,000 views. I go, it just doesn't make sense logistically for you, much less for me, but more importantly for you, right? Now, keep in mind, I'm kind of dumb, as I admit, because I would make more money doing that than I would do doing this. But my logic is, why pay me more to get less? So Space Llama, this is where I wish I had great advice for the guitar shows. I don't know what benefit you get going to guitar shows. There's a sense of community. So like the guitar show that's here in Phoenix where you can drive to Roberto Venn, I think you're 2 hours away, 2 hours, maybe set up a card table. I think the mistake, again, this is just, you asked for the advice, you're getting it. I think the mistake is thinking about sales. You got to go to those things as marketing costs in your head. You're just out there shaking hands and meeting people, and maybe even go to give pickups away. But keep in mind, it's not gonna, your ROI is going to be nothing. Return on investment. In today's day and age, I'm not saying the only way to go to social media. And I know I'm on social media, so everybody's just going to go, oh, of course, he's always going to say social media because that's what he's on. I make more telling people about guitars now than I did selling guitars in a store, and that store did 7 figures a year. I'm not making a lot of money, but I'm making more money than I did investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into a business. I started my YouTube business with a cell phone. I started my store with $30,000 worth of capital is what I started with my store in 2004. That's what I had mustered up to start the store with. Okay, and then some just debt and loans and a heart and a prayer and go. Okay, so you gotta understand the barrier to entry to social media is zero basically. And I know you're probably looking at it, and everybody does this, and anytime I can give this speech, I'll give it. Everybody looks at it like, I'm only getting 1,000 people. I only get 30 people look at my video. I only get 30 people look at my picture. I only got 12 people. I'm like, literally at no cost. You go to these events, you'll get 30 people for $500. You got to keep just making more content. Your content is great. Your pickups are great. You just need marketing. You need to focus on the marketing. I've said this before. Look, I hate saying this publicly, but you asked the question publicly. The barrier to entry to make pickups is very little, and the cost to profit is huge, okay? In the guitar industry, there's only a few products that make as much money as pickups. It's not hard to figure out pickups, everybody. Go to Mojo Tone, or go to StewMac, who everybody says is overpriced. Look at what a pickup kit costs. Look at a spool of wire. Think about what it costs to make that cost materials-wise. And then compare that to what people charge for it. You can see there's a huge amount. Now, the huge amount is for the work, the expertise, and the trial and error. But I'm just saying, the margins on those are very good. Pickups have a huge margin. And so what you have to do is you have to understand that anytime you're in a business where the margins are better, don't get greedy and think, oh, I get to keep all that. That's marketing. You have to pay for the marketing. Because I just told you the problem. The barrier to entry is a Mojo Tone winder and 8 videos of learning how to make pickups and 1 pickup class. And so you guys know Space Llama helps teach a pickup class at Roberto Venn with Arcane. Is it Arcane Pickups? I hope it is, because I keep forgetting which pickups companies do it. But my point is, you're out there teaching people how to do what you're doing, which is great, which is why I think, why I like Dylan Talks Tone. I like anybody who's got the craziness to think that, hey, here's a smart idea. I should teach people what I do and charge them for, and then hopefully they'll still pay me to do it. That's how my logic works for repairs. I'll teach people how I do the repairs, and hopefully they'll still want to pay me to do them. But in your case, I think you're doing great. I think you just need to keep putting out, more content, and you're going to have to find somebody to promote your pickups a little bit, and don't go, oh, I'll get Rick Beato. Everybody's plan. So, it's not you, and I'm not saying you said this or you're thinking this, but every time I talk to a small company, they're always like, how do I get Tyler Larson from Music Win? How do I get, Dovey Doss? How do I get Marty Schwartz? How do I get Rick Beato? And I'm like, You need Ben Coombs. You need the Bald Shredder, right? You need Landon Bailey. You need Jay Leonard J. Hey, you know what? You need me, right? You need channels. I know my channel subscription rate is a little different than those guys in some degree, but you understand we're talking to the same type of audience, okay? And we're saying we have different ways of approaching the same thing, but we're different. But the point is that you don't need 100,000 people. You need 10. And then once you get 10, then you need another 10. And you need another 10. And you need to build your community out and do it that way. So that's my recommendations for that. And I don't think I would go to guitar shows unless you're okay with losing the money and getting that return. I'm not saying, and by the way, I'm never saying not do that. I'm just saying, please do the other things with that, because the other things they're going to give you better ROI. You're going to make more money and grow faster on the platforms that don't seem like it's moving, but it is moving faster. I hope all that kind of makes some sense as whatever I can cover in a few minutes of it on a podcast. MP Kramer. Thank you for the huge super chat. Funny, MP Kramer. I think you're like, I see an MP in the Army and his name's Kramer. Okay. So it says, hello, Phil. Hopping in and out. My youngest daughter is graduating from UCF. $25 for the whipped cream research and development fund. So that's funny. So I think the reason he's giving the super chat is because I was talking about this with the patrons about the fact that all my friends that grew up in Tucson, and my wife, of course, grew up in Tucson, and all her friends and all her family, we all say the same words. And because of the podcast, because of you guys, you lovely, amazing people that watch the show, making comments about the weird things I say all the time, over the years, because I've done so many shows, every one of my friends or family members have watched one or seen a piece of it, and they have all reacted to the same way, going, "You're not. Why are they saying you're saying it weird?" And I said, "I don't know." And one of the things is I say whoop cream, WHOOOP. Whoop cream is whipped cream is whoop cream. Here we have a list. I'll say it real quick. Everyone I know that I grew up with says frustrated, no R. So the first time I said frustrated on the show, and you guys, are you saying fuss instead of frustrated? And I said, yes. After the show, I asked everybody, how do you say frustrated? And I did it with hard R, and they go, frustrated. And I go, yep, including Shauna's parents all did it that way. Was there a list? I thought we had a list of the words because they were words we say. Wash. Somebody caught me on that on a show. I said, you have to wash it. And they were like, are you saying wash it? And I'm like, yeah, it's wash. This is what we figured out. And so, Brian says, it's the deep south of Arizona. Here's what's funny about this. Okay. So I'll cover this, and I'll say this at the end of the show, but I got a couple, no more super chats, but I got a couple of super chats I got to clear out. But here's what's funny about this. The majority of us are military brats. If you live in Tucson, Arizona, if you grew up in Tucson, Arizona, especially when we did, the two economies are retired people and the Air Force Base. Okay, Davis-Monthan is huge training Air Force Base, and it's a training Air Force Base. So literally tons of people are cycling in and out. So you're going to have a lot of people there. Plus it has a giant, the world's biggest graveyard of airplanes, the Boneyard and stuff. So there's a lot of activity there. So it's a military town. So everybody's there as a transplant. My wife's parents, essentially my parents, my mother, most everybody that we know is from the South. So like Shauna's parents, I just use them as an example. They're Southerners. Like if you heard them talk, you would think they are from Texas because they're from Texas. So they have Southern draw. They have Southern tone. We grew up, all of us and my friends, most of us, with parents that have Southern draw, Southern tone. But we talk like Californians because Arizona is it's Calazone. It's like hybrid of California. And then, so apparently all these words that I use on the show that people have been saying, it's been an interesting topic of discussion for friends and family that are from Tucson saying, we're all learning together. Like, that's not how you say those things. So, Yeah, washing machine is a Midwest thing. Yes. Oh yeah, trust me. It's I say Southern, but you understand. It's really just a hodgepodge of, like, no one was really from Tucson growing up. We were all just transplanted there. Like I said, we came for different reasons. Yeah. So you're around a lot of people have different ways of talking, and then it literally changes the way you grew up and talk. So I don't know. So thank you, MP Kramer, for bringing that subject up. I think this is the last one, and let me double check that before I say that. It's not the last one. That's why I got to double check things. There's a couple. Rich says, "Hey Phil, looking for a good 2-channel amp, and I'm drawn to the Jet Black. I love the Jet Black. I also keep thinking about the Amplified Nation. Any advice?" Well, Amplified Nation is a different animal than Bad Cat. Bad Cat is like, the Jet Black to me is like this Voxy Marshall thing happening. It's great. Amplified Nation, I always wonder, because I love the Bad Cats so much, and when I talk about them, sometimes I overpraise the Amplified Nation ones, and I always wonder if the Bad Cat guys are going to be like hurt a little bit. Like, hey, why do you guys love Amplified Nation? To me is on another level when it comes to what they can do, but they got another level of pricing. It's very expensive. I really love the Amplified Nation stuff, and I really like the Bad Cat stuff. Of all the amps I've played from Bad Cat and Amplified Nation, my favorite amp is the Ampliphonics and Gain. The Jet Black would be my second one. The third one would probably be the, why can't I think of it? Reverb, something Reverb. Whatever the first Amplified Nation amp I reviewed, something Reverb, which was a crazy expensive one. That would be my second favorite. Then the Steel Strings, then the Bad Cat, then the Steel Strings Singer. So, but they're different animals. And so one thing I like about the Amplified Nation amp, the Ampliphonics Gain is, man, I can get the Saldano high gain thing out of it. I can get clean out of it. I can have a great pedal platform. The Jet Black is pretty impressive on every level too. It's a money thing though. To me, it's a money thing. If you don't want to spend the money on Amplified Nation, get the Jet Black. You won't be sorry. You'll be like, that's a great amp. If you don't care and money is just, hey, I'm just going to make myself happy. Oh man, I think Amplified Nation is a great way to go. It's a great amp. So, like I said, you have a great problem, my friend. Do you get a really great amp or a really great amp? It's really cool. That's the input I can give you on both. Clan of House Cats says, birthday's tomorrow, so I bought an 8-string Majesty. Well, that's an impressive guitar, my friend, and happy birthday for that. 8-string Majesty is a very unique guitar. I really enjoyed, when I was interviewing John Petrucci, my favorite part of the interview was talking about the 8-string guitars. And I was really impressed with him, obviously, as a person, as a player, but in the interview, I really enjoyed that discussion. And I really loved how upfront he was about it. He wanted to try it. It's kind of a one-time thing. I can't imagine they're going to make 8-strings for a long time. And so I think it's going to be one of the rarest Majesties they ever make. That's the impression I got from that interview and some of the discussion post and pre the interview. So Randy says, hey, Phil, do you think... Oh, who do you think? Who do you think is the most innovative guitar company? I mean, of all time in history, Fender. I'd say Fender. As lame as that sounds. I mean, we already discussed I'm a pickup truck and a Strat guy, so it's going to be Fender. Innovative guitar in history, Fender. From results, not even preferences, just results. I don't think there's anybody even been close. Gibson would be the close second, but I don't think they're as close. And I wouldn't argue if somebody said, no, it's Gibson than Fender. But to me, here's what Fender, innovation in so many levels. Innovation with the tremolo system, innovation with the pricing system, innovation in the availability system, innovation in the way the guitar sounds, innovation in the way the guitar feels, the comfort, the curves, it really just interesting stuff. I think Fender is the most innovative guitar company ever in history. It'd be my, by results. Keep in mind, there's a part of me, it's like, who do you think makes the best hamburgers? And it's like saying McDonald's because it's the most volume. I'm not really kind of happy with my answer, but I'm just honestly without having, hours to contemplate and write down graphs and charts about it, I'm going to say Fender. Johnny says, Band-Aid fun for your outdoor adventures. Thank you for the super chat. I do have a kit on me, so whenever we go hiking, and when we go paddleboarding, we do have a medical kit with us. Especially as you guys know, last year, Shauna found a rattlesnake in one of the hikes, and then last Sunday's hike, we were hiking, and some hikers right before us said, "Hey, just there's a rattlesnake up there," and he doesn't seem too happy, and we're like, "All right, we're not going to go next to him." So yeah, first aid kits are important to have. So, all right. On that note, I want to thank everybody for hanging out today. I hope you guys had fun. I had fun, a lot of subjects. I want to thank the moderators for sending me questions and for handling things and handling links and stuff. As always, you guys are the best. I want to thank the patrons and the channel members for sponsoring the show because, it's literally what pays the bills. So that's always great. I want to thank you guys for watching, but more importantly, if you subscribe or if you like, because although that doesn't cost anything except for some time and some effort, that time and effort is very powerful, and I really appreciate you guys doing that, especially since we're getting so close to 400,000 subscribers, and let's be honest, it's just bragging rights, right? It just feels good to say 400,000. It can be like almost 500,000. I don't know. Maybe that'll impress somebody at a coffee shop in the drive-thru. On that note, thank you guys so much. As always, till the next time, know your gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe.